The Black Sea shimmered under the late summer sun, but its calm surface masked a brewing storm. Far from being a peaceful body of water, it had become a stage for power plays, military maneuvers, and messages sent without words. This time, the stage was set not only for Russia, but also for one of its most powerful allies. China news broke that Russia and China were conducting joint naval drills. The Kremlin was quick to describe them as defensive, stressing that these were not aggressive preparations for a conflict, but rather exercises meant to ensure security in a volatile region. Yet, in the tense climate of the ongoing war in Ukraine, defensive is a term many hear with suspicion. The drills were taking place in the Sea of Japan, far from the war's main front lines, but heavy with symbolism. Warships from both countries sailed side by side, practicing maneuvers, communication, and coordinated responses. On paper, these were exercises in cooperation, navigation, and tactical readiness. In reality, they were also a visible reminder that Russia is not isolated, that despite Western sanctions and political pressure, it still has powerful friends willing to show solidarity. For Russia, the partnership with China serves multiple purposes. Militarily, it demonstrates interoperability between two major powers. Politically, it sends a message to the United States, NATO, and their allies. Russia is not alone. Economically, the alliance is bolstered. The Kremlin's framing of the drills as defensive is strategic. In international law and diplomacy, defensive actions are easier to justify and less likely to provoke outright condemnation. By using the term, Russia aims to present itself as a nation safeguarding its borders and interests, rather than one seeking to expand conflict. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away from the maneuvers, another incident was making headlines: a massive oil depot fire in the Russian city of Sochi. Thick black smoke had billowed into the sky the previous day, visible for miles. Local officials quickly pointed the finger at Ukraine, accusing it of launching a strike that ignited the blaze. The Sochi fire was particularly significant because of its location. Sochi, famous for hosting the 2014 Winter Olympics, is a resort city on the Black Sea coast, far from the front lines. It has largely been shielded from the direct violence of the war. For residents, the fire was a stark reminder that the conflict could reach deep into Russia's territory. Emergency crews worked tirelessly to contain the flames. Videos on social media showed firefighters spraying torrents of water onto massive fuel tanks while explosions rattled the area. By the following morning, the blaze was reported as fully extinguished, though not before it caused significant damage to the facility. Oil depots are high-value targets in modern warfare. They supply fuel to military vehicles, aircraft, and naval vessels. Destroying them can disrupt logistics, slow down operations, and force armies to rely on alternative, often less efficient, supply lines. If Ukraine was indeed behind the Sochi strike, it would fit into a broader strategy of targeting Russia's infrastructure far from the battlefield. A tactic aimed at stretching Moscow's defenses and creating a sense of vulnerability among its citizens. In Kyiv, officials neither confirmed nor denied involvement in the fire. This ambiguity has become a hallmark of Ukraine's approach to strikes inside Russia. By refusing to claim responsibility, Ukraine avoids direct escalation while still sending a clear message: no part of Russia. It's beyond reach. The timing of the two stories, the joint drills with China and the oil depot fire, offered a snapshot of Russia's current reality. On one hand, it seeks to project strength through military alliances and public displays of power. On the other, it faces growing challenges to its security, even within its own borders. Internationally, reactions to the drills were mixed. Western nations viewed them as part of a deepening military partnership that could reshape global security dynamics. The United States, in particular, is wary of increased cooperation between Russia and China, especially in areas like missile defense, naval strategy, and cyber capabilities. Analysts in Washington argued that while the exercises were labeled defensive, they could easily be adapted for offensive purposes. China's role in the drills is equally noteworthy. Beijing has maintained an officially neutral stance on the war in Ukraine, calling for peace talks and avoiding direct involvement in the conflict. However, its willingness to conduct high-profile military exercises with Russia signals a level of support that goes beyond economic ties. It is a calculated move, a way to back Moscow without openly joining its war effort, while still countering Western influence in the Asia-Pacific region. For Ukraine and its allies, the message from the drills is clear. Russia is not entirely isolated. This reality complicates efforts to pressure Moscow into ending the war through sanctions and diplomatic isolation. Every show of cooperation between Russia and China chips away at the narrative of a Russia standing alone against the world. Inside Russia, state media played up the naval drills as evidence of a strong, reliable partnership with China. Footage showed sleek warships cutting through calm waters, crews saluting in perfect unison, and commanders shaking hands on deck. The imagery was designed to reassure Russians that their country remains a major player on the world stage, despite the ongoing war. In contrast, the Sochi oil depot fire received more subdued coverage in Russian media, while it was acknowledged and the Ukrainian military was blamed. The emphasis was on how quickly the fire was contained and how operations would resume soon. The aim was to present an image of control, to show that even when struck, Russia could absorb the blow and carry on. Yet beneath the official narratives, both events tell a deeper story about the state of the war. The drills with China highlight Russia's need for allies and its desire to counterbalance Western military power. The Sochi fire underscores the vulnerabilities that remain, even in cities far from the front lines. Together, they illustrate a war that is no longer confined to the trenches of eastern Ukraine, but is playing out across continents in military partnerships, economic realignments, and strikes that test the limits of each side's reach. As the days pass, the drills will end, the smoke over Sochi will fade, but the messages they carried will linger.